They're looking to do promos to customers and re-engage, because a lot of times you can make more on the upsell from customer success of doing the upsells even without the salespeople.
Like upselling or more business comes from customers being happy.
There's different ways to skin a cat. It doesn't matter if it's AI or a human doing it.
There's no human connection that is being made. That's where we see the difference between AI and human as well. The engagement from a human standpoint is really, really relevant to maintain that connection. You become friends with them and then they become your fan.
Marketing works really hard to generate the leads, to bring in the customers. Sales works extremely hard to close the sale. No engagement, no human touch, no empathy, and therefore you lose your customer.
Struggling really, really hard to bring in that dollar for your business. But at the end of the day, one, you have to keep that dollar. So the customer success has become somewhat
the sales machine, Rankins.
Ladies and gentlemen, today's guest is Tony Tom. He's the founder of Orca AI, the Swiss Army knife for B2B post-sales teams. A serial tech entrepreneur, Tony has been deep in the B2B game for over a decade. This dude knows how to build, scale, and win in the customer success game. A lot of companies focus on generating the marketing, getting the leads, then they focus on the sales. But ultimately, they lose their wealth from churn, from lacking the ability to automate customer success. And if you want to have long-term sustainable success, you want real wealth, it's going to come from annual recurring revenue and customer success. And this is what Tony Tom does. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Tony.
Yeah, great to join, John. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're a unique cat. I mean, not very many people really focus their companies around customer success. So tell me, how did you get into the space of delivering customer success and then ultimately coming up with the idea that I want to utilize AI to automate everything?
So I'll take those as two distinct things probably. Customer success is one of the places where there is a lot of buzz around, but not enough money being put in as an investment. So we were looking at places where there is enough push to be made with new technology, but at the same time, what can be done in terms of advancing, and there's enough budget to kind of like capture what is really, really necessary for the people. So you're just exploring places where we can like put in enough value for not just one team, but for multiple teams. And that's where we came in as like customer success being one of those places.
So how did you get into all things customer success and decide, you know what? No one is out there doing this. I'm going to build a system to automate customer success and help companies retain their wealth.
In fact, we didn't start off as a customer success solution. We started off as something else for B2B product teams to build products better. But at the end of the day, what we landed was essentially building products is all about understanding more details about who your customer is, what their problems are, and trying to understand more and more deeper to the customer at the end of the day. So that's how we landed at customer being the center rather than product being the center. Most people think, hey, I have to build the product, I have to build a feature, I have to build something else. But it all comes from customer is what we have figured while building a different product. Then we started thinking about like what makes sense for people to build is always coming from customers. And that's where we landed, hey, if you focus on customer first, and make sure you solve the right problems for the customer, at the end of the day, you will end up building a default really good product. You don't have to worry about whether your product is right, whether your product is prioritized, etc. And that's where we came in and said, hey, probably a lot of people are doing things or automating a lot of stuff around making money or bringing in more customers, but nobody is doing something to enable you to, especially in the AI field, enable you to keep the customers that you bring in. And that's where we come in and say, hey, we help you keep the customers happy, keep the customers satisfied. That at the end of the day, that is what matters. That's what keep bringing you money. at the end of the day.
Amen. And, tell us, how does Orca AI essentially do that? And how is it different than other solutions?
So when we look at the whole life cycle, starting from you thinking about reaching out to a customer, you reaching out to a customer, you bringing them the sales, you close them. And at that point, everything in B2B suddenly jumps into a transactional way of doing things. It starts becoming just questions and answers. It starts becoming solving just problems. We don't look customers as specifically a whole. There are stakeholders, there are users, there are end users, there are probably users that come in very less often. All of this has to be managed as a group, as an account, for you to kind of understand what's happening across the organization once you sell the product to them. So what we do is we unify every touch point that you have with the customer. Let it be product, let it be communication, let it be emails, let it be conversations like this. Anything that comes in at a customer level, we unify all of that and gives you an AI on top of it to synthesize all of this information, give you outputs, give you reports saying, hey, this is what your exact customer A is doing. This is what you should do next to keep them happy. They are less happy today, but they'll be happy doing this tomorrow. Or they've been happy about some of the things, but these things that you just released does not make them happy. So this is holistic view that we are giving you from a customer standpoint, enables you to think like a customer, probably be in the shoes of the customer. That's what we enable at Orca.
Yeah. And so how do you persuade and influence B2B companies that your product is a must, not just a nice to have?
The simplest way to explain this to anyone who's in B2B is your churn is the number one factor that is affecting your net retention, and net dollar retention is the only thing that grows or collapses your company. Basically, that's as simple as that. That one single value is gonna make or break your company, and as many sales as you can scale in the early days, that might work. A dollar bringing in is always gonna come in, but if you cannot keep the dollars, especially when you are scaling up, that is where the problem comes in. That's as simple as that. Any SaaS or any B2B person will just simply understand this, because you spend thousands and thousands of dollars bringing in one customer, and if you're not even keeping them for 1 year, or like renew it for at least 3 years and keep them happy forever, there's no point in building that company. That company is not going to sustain. So it's a very simple math that every B2B person understands. That's as simple as that.
Yeah. So have you ever dealt with people that are not in the SaaS industry or the online tech industry, brick and mortar companies that are using your solution, and what kind of a difference are you making with them?
We usually don't work beyond SaaS at this point. We want to, but at this point, we are specifically focused on B2B SaaS companies who are trying to bring all of this together. But there is so much scope in the other industries as well. I've been speaking to people in other industries trying to expand their, let's say, logistics, lumber, all of these people who really know the depth of what they want, but there's not enough solutions out there. There's not enough solutions where it is enabling them to keep the customers, enabling them to keep the customers happy. There are slightly different variations of this in different industries, and it varies from logistics to lumber to Medicare to insurance. Everything is different. So it's nuanced enough, but we are starting somewhere.
Okay, great. So your idea is to obviously expand, and you have exponential or opportunity for expansion. I mean, if you go into the brick and mortar, because I deal with brick and mortar and other SaaS companies as well. And I can tell you a lot of manufacturing distribution companies that are in modern trade, they're looking to retain customers. They're looking to do promos to customers and re-engage, because a lot of times you can make more on the upsell from customer success of doing the upsells, even without the salespeople. Does your platform offer that opportunity for upselling and reselling and subscriptions and memberships? Have you thought that through?
We are not doing the upselling part of it, but we are enabling companies to push. And basically what we believe is like upselling or more business comes from customers being happy. So if you're like looking at a happy customer and saying, hey, we have launched this, we have this new addition that is coming in from our angle, and then maybe you want to try it, they'd be more than happy to try it, is what we have experienced so far. So keeping customers happy and keeping them at their toes basically enables us to essentially say, this is something new that we are trying out. We would love to see you try it out as well and give us some advice. Then the customer would always be happy to come back and say, hey, let me try this out. Maybe I want to buy this. Maybe one of my folks want to buy this. And making it super easy for them to try it out. That is what we do. And that's what I think most of the companies have to adopt as well. Instead of just going and saying, hey, buy this, they will just always come back. The customer will always come back if they're happy and say, I want to try out more of your products because what of that we have seen so far is amazing and we love you. So that is the emotion that we are trying to create, rather than just going out and telling, hey, we have something to sell and we might want you to try it out. The other way works much better than going outbound and saying, hey, we want you to use this.
Yeah, there's different ways to skin a cat. So my psychology of having that upsell in customer success is not exactly what I think you digested. So what I'm saying is, within the customer success platform, how much of customer success, and we're talking customer success, it doesn't matter if it's AI or a human doing it, you want that customer ultimately to become a raving fan.
Yeah, exactly.
And so how much of that and of Orca AI is customer success revolving around engagement with that customer?
Pretty much almost 100%. If you're not engaging with the customer, you are not doing it right, is what I believe. Because if you are not engaging with the customer, there's no human connection that is being made. That's where we see the difference between AI and human as well. The engagement from a human standpoint is really, really relevant to maintain that connection. AI can prompt you to do some of those things proactively. AI can give you signals on, this customer is going unhappy. This is the right time to kind of like maybe go and engage with them, maybe send them donuts, maybe send them something else. But you need to act on them right now is something that we proactively go and tell people. And that's what our platform also does. Proactively figure out, hey, this customer is becoming unhappy a little bit. This is your time to shine. Just go and like engage with them, get on a call with them, go drop down to their office with a box of donuts or whatever that works best for you. So that is something that I totally agree on. And that's how you become friends with them. You become friends with them and then they become your fan. And at the end of the day, they are like, we want to work more with you. So what else do you have? That's kind of the natural progression of customer success, and how to make customers happy is what we think.
Yeah, and obviously there's statistics on this, but ultimately, if I look at the overall landscape in business, like essentially all businesses need more customers, leads, marketing. They need more sales. They need the revenue coming in. And ultimately, they need accountability. And so what I call customer success is accountability, right? Because I mean, marketing works really hard to generate the leads, to bring in the customers. Sales works extremely hard to close the sale, to actually get customers using the products. And then customer success, a lot of times before, if you look at the timeline in the industry, a lot of it was transactional, like you're saying, Tony, right? Just fulfill the order, one and done, and let's move on to fulfilling the order.
Exactly.
No engagement, no human touch, no empathy, and therefore you lose your customer. So if you look at the history of marketing, and if you look back in the last 50 years, there's marketing 1.0, marketing 2.0, marketing 3.0. There's marketing pre-internet, post-internet, right? It's very different. Marketing is really evolved. Sales 2.0, 3.0. A lot of the sales before, you really didn't have to have the ability to have empathy. And you go to a shop 100 years ago and you get what you get because that's all there is, right? There wasn't so many choices. And in sales 2.0, there were more choices, and then you had the people that became car salesmen or then boiler room salespeople, right? And it's all evolved. 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. So how has customer success evolved from 1.0 to now, where is it at? Is it at 3.0? Is it 4.0? Where would you say it's at, and where is it going? There's a great quote out there from Wayne Gretzky, right? Why was he so great at what he was doing? He's like, I don't skate to where the puck is at. I skate to where it's going. And that's why I'm able to score more than everybody else. So where do you see customer success at right now, and where is it going? Because I see it as part of the growth engine in the future. It's not just going to be sales and marketing collaborating. It's going to be every single aspect of the company, from sales, marketing, and customer success, literally merging to become that growth engine, like the sales machine.
100%, 100%. The way that I think about it is, this is probably the second part of it, second part of what we call as customer success revolution, because it's a fairly new thing. In the last 10, 12 years, we have started hearing customer success and support more often, and that has become the centerpiece of what businesses do to evolve and to keep their customers happy. One of the reasons is exactly what you just said, is sales is struggling really hard to bring in that dollar for your business. But at the end of the day, one, you have to keep that dollar. The second part of that is, a happy customer will always spread the word. Now, social proof and how well are your customers doing, the reviews that they can put, even if they can just jump on a call or like send even a video to your prospects, changes the world for your sales team. Now it's all becoming a cycle. It's not just your sales team working for you to bring that dollar. Your customers have to work. Your customers have to put in their word for it. Your product has to work as expected. Then the customer will again become happy and put in another word for it. Their testimonials matter a lot. Your social proof matter a lot. So the customer success has become somewhat similar to a growth engine, as you mentioned, and then it is becoming more and more fueling growth machine. So testimonials or case studies, or how they are using your product, how happy they are about your solution, all of this becomes really critical. In fact, I am actually taking this call from a customer office today. I am with my customers, sitting right next to them, helping them use the product, hearing firsthand how they're using it, what are their problems, and trying to solve it, to make sure I am making sure that my customer is happy, the users are happy, and they're getting what they want. And then eventually they'll just bring in more customers for me, because they'll just always keep talking about, oh, see about this product that I'm using that's helping me do all of these things. And the person who's letting me do it, he comes to my office in the morning, stays with me to help them configure the product and use them. So it's becoming a growth machine for us eventually. And that is where the power comes from. That's where we have to make customers happy.
Yeah. And when I was saying, more and more organizations have turned customer success, and this is probably, for me, what I see customer success as 3.0. At first, you just fulfill. It's 2.0, you fulfill, and then you call a customer and you ask them if they're happy. Version 3.0, for me, when I look at customer success, is really turning it into a growth engine, working with sales and marketing. And so how do we do that? Excuse me. How do we do that? I mean, even success leaves clues. If you look at Amazon and you look at how they operate, customers who bought this also bought this and
Correct.
also bought this.
Exactly.
So they're using suggested selling, or like in SaaS and B2B world, customers who bought this also bought this. Or have you heard about the new features in the sales machine and how you can gamify all of the performance of your customer success teams, your marketing teams, and your sales team? Have you heard about that, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, there's this saying where whatever that happens in B2C happens in B2B 5 years down the line. So B2B is always like lagging 5 years. So B2C, the consumer ecosystem, what we are seeing in Amazon, what we have seen in probably review systems for consumers, etc. All of that is coming to B2B today, and enabling companies to use that same framework, reviews. So there are like ton of review sites where you can just go and search for a particular thing and find what actual users of that particular product is talking about this. That's happening real time. Now, there are companies enabling, there are products enabling the exact users of that particular product to talk to new prospects or your sales team prospects and help them understand what this is being used for. That is also helping the growth machine. So that is evolving in B2B as we see, and a lot of AI being done right is helping that accelerate as well, because you can actually synthesize a lot of information, text, voice, videos, etc., all together with all the new AI models to essentially enable prospects to see what exactly is this company talking about, or is this product talking about in from a business standpoint. What does that users mean? Like synthesize thousands of reviews together to kind of like understand what they're really talking about, and if they're happy about these things, if they're not happy about these things. So a combination of all these is happening as we speak, and I think this cycle will continue for the next few years until businesses start to realize, oh, this is really relevant for me. I should just keep my customers happy. Otherwise, I'm gonna like probably dead in the water already. So that tipping point that's happening right now is what we believe. That's the current economy as we see.
Yeah, there's a great quote out there. Somebody said, if you don't take care of your people, someone else will. And I see that as the motto for customer success. If you don't take care of your customers, somebody else will. And whoever has automation and AI just to initiate that engagement and continue it until that customer needs to get on the phone with a human with empathy, those are going to be the companies that win, that are going to build the biggest growth engines in the next decade.
100%.
And I wouldn't even say, I wouldn't go beyond 5 years or a decade, because things are going to change dramatically.
Yeah, things are changing super fast. I mean, the acceleration that we are seeing in technology and even people scaling, right? We would think people will not scale as fast as technology does. But from my standpoint, I think we are supposed to evolve. We are here as human beings, historically has evolved and survived so far, and we have to keep evolving to survive. And one of those traits is just speed of moving things, and we are seeing people also are evolving to become much more faster in terms of technology and adoption, and people are trying out a lot of things to kind of match with the speed that technology is evolving. So that will continue for at least another 5-6 years, and specifically AI, and we are just seeing the start of it. So people just evolve,
Yeah,
technology evolves, and the world is going to keep adopting.
yeah, it was like November 2022, ChatGPT launched, went public, and, AI has been around for years. I mean, there's people been working on, different levels of artificial intelligence, whether it's machine learning, large language models. Like, it's been around for a long time. It just hasn't been brought to the forefront of the public,
Yeah.
right? And so, and now, we're not even 3 years in with ChatGPT. So when did you start Orca? How long did it take you to build? And let's speak to that, because that is just an example of how things evolve.
So if I were to like think about my career or like whatever that we've been building as a continuous motion, it's been almost 2 years when we started building, but we didn't start building Orca as it is today. It's a part of the evolution that we think is happening. We started off taking one problem, that the core of that problem was the customers on one end and the business on the other end. How do you keep them close enough that you have enough understanding about what customers are talking about and enough understanding about what business is doing? How do you match this? It has to match exactly like a jigsaw puzzle to make it work. And that's where we started. The core of our philosophy still stays the same. How do you bridge that gap between the actual customers and the business? There's always a gap. As the business grows, the gap increases. As the customers grow, the gap increases. How do you keep them close enough? Because the mass of two things is always increasing. Businesses are growing, the customers are growing, customers are evolving, the market is evolving, so many dynamics playing there. So that's where we started. Then we tapped into like which are the verticals that we want to solve into. We started off doing with product. How do we make the product better? We started off doing with like understanding more about the customer, giving it back to the product team. Then we realized the customers still have more and more to solve. We shifted gears into doing more of customer success to make customers happy. There are business teams that are involved in this. And it's a constant evolution, and I don't think this is a full stop here. I think this will keep evolving as we go forward, and it'll always keep evolving is what I think. And if people who do not learn is going to be left out.
Amen.
So that's how we started. It's been like, but being said that, the platform that we see today was built super fast, and I think that's gonna even accelerate more as we see more and more AI. Interesting enough, 90% of the code that we have built the platform on today is written by AI. That doesn't mean we are skipping humans, but humans are much, much more efficient, that we can like build things that used to take 12 to 18 months in just 4 months. That is the pace of things moving as we see.
If you're enjoying this episode and you're picking up what I'm putting down and what the guests are actually putting out there, do me a favor, like and comment what you liked about the episode, or even comment what would you like to hear, what topics would you like to hear in the future, because believe me, it matters. I read absolutely every single one of them, and I want to bring you more and more value to help companies scale so that we can grow this podcast to make a bigger difference. Now let's get back to the show. I want to speak to that because, I really admire your ambition in starting Orca and especially disrupting the market for customer success. What is the biggest lesson you think you've learned building Orca AI that you wish you would have known 2 years ago?
One thing that I really, really wanted to know and learn, specifically building this product, was to try and understand what exactly does a customer need. And most often that is one of the hardest problems to solve. Being a product person, I've always wanted to understand, like, what is that one thing? So a simple example in our real world is like, I want to move faster. So do I get a faster car or do I get on a flight? Which one is the right solution for me? So it depends on a lot of factors on what does that faster mean for me. So do I want to drive faster? Do I want to travel faster? Do I want to travel with a bunch of folks? So it's a very nuanced system. Similarly in business, I want like a bigger ambitious problem for every customer that we speak to is like, I want to understand my customer better, but how do I solve for that? What does that better mean for my customers? So trying to understand that and like very specifically narrow it down to one or two things that I can solve for them. So for probably a race car driver, I want to move faster is always like a better engine for a car. But it's not always the same. I want to move faster can be also taking a plane or taking a train ride. It's very different from all those different angles. So understanding that very specific nuance on what is that one thing that your customer tells you, and how do you dig deeper enough to learn what does that mean for that particular customer, is something that I think I keep learning a lot. And one thing that I would have loved to learn a lot more faster, a lot more earlier if I could.
Yeah, because obviously you spend a lot of money developing and then you realize, okay, a lot of this was wasted effort. And I love that distinction because so many different products and services out there, even in the SaaS and B2B world, are out of the box. One size fits all. And then when you get into the weeds and you go and you meet customers, even though they're in the same industry, like you said, building out an engine for a race car makes that race car faster, potentially. But unless you really go in and you find out what is that race team doing, what does that race car really need, and find out the root cause, because essentially, potentially, it's not even the engine. It could be the aerodynamics of the car. It could be the tires, right? And more when you do this, that's why I know that discovery is so powerful, because you can go in and one race team to the next race team, even if they're in the same industry, even if they're in the same race. One race team's problem with the car could be its tires. It could be the aerodynamics of the car, or it could be the engine. And so more and more, I'm seeing things become better, faster, more efficient is by tailor making the solutions per not just industry, but per client. And a lot of companies don't do that because it's so expensive to hire devs and engineers to actually build solutions. It takes, like you said before, it takes you 18 to 24 months. Now you can build something essentially in 4 to 6 months. And the solution that you're on right now, how long? Let's talk about that tech. How many people did it take you to build the system? And how long?
You'll be surprised. It took only 5 people, 5 months to build the system.
Big round of applause. Tony, I'm in the SaaS game. I have a tech team of 20. And and like building and coding, whether you're, using AI and GitHub to help you in all the different languages, it's not easy. And what you find out is even after you build, things break and things have bugs, right? Microsoft has bugs, Apple has bugs, software has bugs. So tell me, because it's fascinating. Tell the listeners about your background. Did you have an engineering background, a customer success background? How did you come up with the idea that this is where I'm going to focus? This is what we're going to build.
Yeah. So by trade or by education is probably a better word. I'm an engineer. I'm a computer science engineering graduate, and I used to love computers back from my school days. So I started programming when I was like probably 13 or 14. So I'm like in love with computers from that day onwards. Loved building software from that day onwards. And I really wanted to build a software within college itself. So I cannot say I am engineer by profession at this point. I'm probably more of a product person in profession. A product is basically probably a combination of engineering a little bit, customer development a little bit, sales of a little bit, all of that combined. So I'm more of a horizontal guy today, but by education and by all means inside my heart, I'm an engineer. I'm a computer science engineer. So I started doing that. Then I kind of evolved into this role of product and customer facing roles eventually, because it was necessary for me to jump into this position where you need to talk to customers to understand whatever that we just spoke about right before this. Try to understand more about customer problems. Try to understand how we can solve them. There are multiple ways to solve them, but what is the optimum way? Figuring that out always fascinated me. So I kind of like shifted my gears after graduating from college, trying to do this for multiple people as a consultancy. Then eventually did my own product, launched it multiple times, then work with startups to kind of like understand more around how to build a company, what does that structure look like, how to build a team, evolve that, and just applying that all together in a single place to kind of build Orca at this point. That's kind of the evolution that I had from probably the age of 14. So it's a very short sentence or a short way to say this took last 12, 13 years for me to kind of go through all of these waves. And it was not always highs, it was always failures and failures and failures repeatedly to learn from those, and then essentially get to this point of like high and keep learning. That's
No, I love it. It's fascinating. Engineers fascinate me, and they have got, a lot of the times they've got great ideas. A lot of the times they miss the mark. But what's unique about you, is you've been in the trenches, working with B2B companies and understanding their problems. We talked about your background. We talked about you understanding and learning the lessons of what you wish you would really know, but ultimately you wouldn't have got those lessons if you didn't go through those experiences. But for people out there now, sometimes AI can be intimidating. I mean, for the general public, they don't even understand language learning or large learning models, and they don't understand machine learning for the most part. My earliest understanding was Watson playing chess from IBM. That's essentially AI. And then, it evolved into me understanding Siri, give me, an idea for this, or Siri, tell me about that. It's really AI, artificial intelligence, but now it's out there for the public to utilize, to play with. And it's not just Chat GBT. I mean, there's Claude. There's so many, right, different modalities of AI and different companies that are even DeepSeek now out of China, and open source AI that's available to people. But now when you're building AI, it can be intimidating, and or it's just, for some people, my experience is, for a lot of people, ignorance of not knowing about a particular industry creates intimidation just because they don't know.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
I totally agree with that. And that intimidation grows into ignorance at some point, and then they're kind of like left out, which is a natural progression of evolution, is what I think. It happened thousands of years ago. It keeps happening today.
Yeah, and you've jumped right in. I mean, it's 2 years, and AI is now your baby. Why Orca? How'd you come up with the name Orca? I mean, we all like whales.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Everybody thinks that I intentionally picked this up, or we brainstormed this into this intelligent name, but it was the other way around. It was lucky that we found it. One of my friends was watching Nat Geo, and I was in search for a name. He knew it. He's just like, hey, Orca seems to be an interesting name. Why don't you just search for a domain? And just immediately went and searched for a domain, then find out that domain is available. Then thought about eventually how we can fit that into how we can fit that into the equation that we are playing. Orca seems to be, and we all love orcas. If you don't know about orca, I think if you're a listener, you should just go and research about it. They're really intelligent animals, and they communicate under the sea to hunt, under the sea to kind of generate a family, a culture, a society. Orcas are really intelligent animals, and intelligent plus how you can do it, good communication, all of this are core of how you serve your customer and how you understand your customer with AI as well. So it felt like it fitted right in, and we just like went with it. So it was a random find, then fitted into the puzzle, but it fit really well.
I like it. Okay. So now for all the B2B companies out there and the people who are building SaaS, especially with AI, when you're early stage, how do you build post sales into the product from day one without over engineering it?
Yeah, without over engineering is a key thing. I'm glad you picked it up. And without over engineering is something that you have to be really mindful about. One thing that I think early stage companies, especially for the first 100 customers at least, depending on the customer size, you can do it at 50 or 10 or 25. It has to be really hands on. You gotta be in the trenches with them. You gotta work with them. You gotta be in every conversation that they're having internally. Even if your customer and your user of that customer is just having a conversation, just ask them, hey, can I just sit in and listen what you're talking about? I would just be silent. I'd just be a silent listener, but I need to know what you're talking to your users, because that is really critical. You need to know what is happening internally. You need to know what is happening within their conversations. You have to go in deep, and you don't have to over engineer this. I go back to this quote from program, like, do things that don't scale. It will not scale beyond 50 or beyond 100 depending on the customers or depending on the bandwidth that you have, but you got to do that hands on. And once you figure that out, a process will just evolve from that. Eventually that process becomes your post sales motion. And what we are seeing often across this is by doing something like a Slack common channel with customers. And this is a really good way to make it very personal for your customers as well as you. Just start a Slack channel right off the bat when you're closing a customer, and just bring in every stakeholder that you want to work with, every user that you want to work with, into that Slack Connect channel, that Slack Connect feature that you have, and be in that Slack channel. Whenever they speak about something, you get a notification. You can just simply look at it and say what they're talking about. They can also call you out whenever needed. You can also ask them questions. Hey, does this look interesting to you? We are working on something like this. It becomes a very natural way of communicating. Email used to be this probably 10 years before, where we used to have a natural line of communication within email, but now email has become very cluttered, unusable. Now the replacement of email is becoming Slack. And that is something that I think
Well, essentially, can't you do that just with the bot and just give access to humans and the bot as well?
yes, you can, but it is not as personal as a Slack Connect channel would look like. The reason being, Slack is a natural way, or like Slack or Microsoft Teams. I'm just like putting Slack because it's very
Sure.
obvious to people. But any communication channel that you do internally have becomes a very natural way of communicating, because you're using that on a daily basis. You talk to your manager on Slack.
Yeah, my entire tech teams use Slack. My solutions management team use Slack. My QA team, everybody's using Slack because it's just better, faster, more efficient, and you can, cut through all the noise and distraction of email.
Exactly. So that becomes your natural habitat. And being in their natural habitat makes more customers, makes people very comfortable. So you need people to be comfortable to open up. You need people to be comfortable to start talking in their natural language. Hey, I don't see this as a problem. Make it more casual, not make it formal. A chat or a widget on your product makes it very formal, makes it very Oh, can I reach out to this person? When do I get a response? All of that becomes a question that triggers in your customer's head, which you don't want. You make it very personal for them, at least for the first 50 of them. Then you evolve into a process that can manage that.
Moving forward in the future, how customer success teams are going to be a part of actually driving revenue and becoming part of that growth engine, or just putting out fires?
It has to be both, because somebody has to put out fires. There has to be.
Amen. I call them firemen.
Yeah. So somebody has to put out fires, but at the same time, it cannot be always putting out fires. That'll just make you look like, oh, I'm this. It'll just work both ways. Customers won't be happy if you're just putting out fires and not thinking strategically for them. At the same time, the people who are doing this, they need to be understanding more of the customers. Their whole job, or why they love their job, is to kind of like do this. I would love doing that. But if I'm putting out fires all day, I wouldn't be happy. Both parties being happy helps the business as well. So ultimately, both parties being happy, both parties doing their job right, makes the business by default a success. So it cannot be that, but at the same time, it has to be a balance of both, is what
I agree. And ultimately, if your team is always putting out fires, it means you haven't built a fireproof product. Because if your product is good enough and it's fireproof, then customer success can focus on how can customers make the most of the product, and how can they offer value of how other customers have got value from that product that they could initiate with using the product as well. So you don't want to be a fireman. You want the product to be fireproof. And that's what we know now is product-led growth, right? And how has product-led growth affected your organization at Orca?
So me personally, and we as an organization really think product-led growth is not a different thing. It's just another way of enabling customers to use the product. And I don't believe somebody who is not using your product, just buying it for the sake of buying it, is not an ideal person for you to sell to. You should be able to let them use the product, let them see the functionality firsthand. And some products will find it difficult, because something like, let's say you are buying Salesforce, it's not easy for you to start using the product unless you have the data in it. So you won't see the functionality until you have the data in it. But there are ways to do that. And now with AI enabling a lot of data to be generated, or dummy data, whatever is the right way to do it, everybody is ready to use your product, rather than just like you talking about that product for the 30 minutes and then like trying to buy it for $10,000. And that's not going to happen anymore. PLG is just a natural progression, or product led growth is just a natural progression of how the society is evolving, how people are thinking. And we are very positive to it. We'll just anyone let sign up, come onto your site, come onto just Orca, getorca.ai, and just sign up for the product. Try it out for yourself. Try connecting some of those things. Then you'll find value. Then you start talking to us. Then I'm sure you'll need to know more. Then we're ready to jump on a call at any point in time. And then yeah, we'll talk about that. It has to be a natural progression.
Yeah, I agree. You know, if you sign up for Salesforce and there's no data in the system, 67% of people, according to different agencies out there, say that customers don't use the product or don't know how. And even HubSpot, it will take you 5 weeks just to get the system set up. And if you want it tailor-made or custom-made, whether it's Salesforce, HubSpot, Zoho, you're going to have to spend tens of thousands of dollars just to onboard your team, and it takes months. It's crazy to me. And so, yeah, now tailor-made, better, faster, more efficient. It depends on the organization. But I love how you're so giving, and even you practice it in letting clients and customers use your product. Go there to Orca, and you can literally play with the product, figure out how it's going to be a fit. So let's talk about the people out there that are starting off their AI companies and building out an AI model. Where would you say they should start? Do they build on the back of a ChatGPT, the back of a large language model, or do they start from scratch?
I would say always start on the back of an existing model, because model layer, or whatever that AI models out there, the rate at which they are improving, if you are starting to invest in that, your job becomes to become a model layer. And if you are the company building a model layer, then go do that. But if you are building something else, an application on top of AI, always use the existing ones, always use the existing infrastructure, because the infrastructure companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, etc., all of their job day in, day out is to improve that. And the pace at which they are improving, it's super hard to match. And you need a ton of money to do that. So if you go and chase that as your mode, it's never going to work. It's always keep improving. It's their job. Using that, how do you enable technology or application layer for your users to become much more efficient, adopt that without much challenge? If there's an update in the model, can you give that to your users? Can you give the outcome to your users faster? That's where I think all these companies should focus in, because it's definitely a race to bottom for the model layer, and they're going to compete like the bigger ones. The bigger one is always going to win there. The application layer is where the most money is going to be made.
Yeah, and if they're not engineers and they've never did coding, right, and they don't know anything about it, what would you suggest they do? Go out. You can't, and a lot of the developers and engineers don't even understand AI right now. So would you suggest how would they hunt down a couple engineers to build them out a system?
It's pretty easy. I think the market, and they don't need a lot at this point. You just need like two smart people who can understand and use AI effectively to build anything in this world as of today. And that is a blessing at the same time, that's a curse as well, because you have to really, really dig deeper to know whether they're smart or not, because you don't know when you're interviewing, when you're hiring, you don't know if they're just bluffing, you don't know if they're using AI, you don't know if they're talking truth. So how do you know the truth? So spend time early on to understand where they're coming from. Try to understand them from a very first principle standpoint, then potentially get to the details as much as possible so that you understand you're not getting bluffed. And at the end of the day, that becomes the great hire that you want to do. So just 2 or 3 would just definitely get you to where you want to be. And that's a really good start for anyone out there. It's really easy to find people, but finding quality people still remains really hard.
Yeah, you need, and even artificial intelligence can't help you there.
Yeah. At some level, it can still help you, but I mean, you need to meet the person. You need to see them face to face. You need to at least get on a call and like try to explain things to them, hear them explaining things. That's the only time when you find, hey, this person knows the shit that they're talking about. This person is a real deal. Something like that has to be done to.
Did you experience early on when you brought on your developers to build your system? Did you ever experience some false prophets?
We have a very thorough process, to be honest. We don't hire unless they come back with a very specific interview, an assignment that we give out, and it's not an easy assignment. It's AI cannot do that. We have tried letting AI do that, and AI cannot do that. So we let people do that, and we don't want them to complete it fully. It's a hard one for sure, but at least give it a shot, give it an approach, and then make sure that your approach is explainable from your end. You cannot just go and ask ChatGPT and come back with an approach and say, hey, this is the approach, but you don't know what are the nuances in that approach. Then we are not going to let you get into the next call at all. So we do that very thoroughly, like 1, 2, 3 rounds, to make sure that we get into the details of everything that they're coming back with.
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, they need to provide a product that's going to be able to help companies be successful with customer success. And that's ultimately Orca. Tony, it's been amazing. Where can people reach out to you directly? And are you available directly, or do they just go to your website and try out the product?
They can do both. Available on LinkedIn all day, every day. You just like I pretty much respond to almost all the DMs that I get, or at least I try, and like go and directly try out at getorca.ai. That's also really fine.
Amen. Well, Tony, it's been great having you on the show. I look forward to connecting. I look forward to collaborating together, even with my product and yours. I definitely see a fit. And, you know, we have customer success built in the sales machine, but you're taking it to another level. And I'd like to take that journey with you.
100%. Look forward to it.
All right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Tony Tom.
Yeah.
That's a wrap, folks. Thanks for joining me today. And if you got value from this episode, do me a favor, like, subscribe, and refer a friend. And if you want even more value, go to thesalesmachine.com, click on resources, and there's tons of resources there to increase profits and drive performance in your business. Right on, come on.